around the region. I24 News Middle East correspondent Michael Pluchak with a story.
The protests across Iran are continuing and are deadly. 9 people were killed overnight in nationwide civic unrest, and that's just according to state media. The death toll over 6 days of demonstrations is now at least 20, and 400 protesters have been arrested. Monday also marked the first fatality among Iran's security forces. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani acknowledged the public outcry, but also warned he would crack down on what he called lawbreakers.
Protest within a legal framework is absolutely free, but the atmosphere for destruction and unrest is definitely not an atmosphere which people would tolerate.
But Rouhani's remarks were a far cry from his boss's interpretation of events.
In the events of recent days, the enemies have united and are using all their means, money, weapons, policies, and security services to create problems for the Islamic regime.
And indeed, the Iranian propaganda machine is in full swing, putting the responsibility for the deadly clashes squarely on Western players.
In these clashes, Western intelligence services are visible. In these clashes, no bullets were fired by the police, military, or security forces toward the people.
But despite the threats by the regime and a social media blackout, protests continued with the biggest show of dissent in the country since the Green Movement of almost a decade ago. Then it was about rigged elections. Today's protests were sparked about bread and butter concerns. Literally. Austerity in Iran, a product of years of sanctions over Iran's nuclear program, led to a sluggish economy and rising prices. Rouhani promised that his 2015 nuclear deal would lift economic sanctions and change that. But change has hardly trickled down to the average citizen, with a 12.4 unemployment rate in 2017, up 1.4% from the previous year. But anger has also shifted to Iran's support for neighboring terrorist and rogue entities, funneling funds to support Assad's Syrian regime, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Hamas in Gaza, instead of channeling that money to Iranians. The last round of anti-government protests in 2009 lasted for roughly 8 months and failed to achieve their objectives. Will Iranian security succeed in stifling this one too? Or should Iran be preparing for a grassroots revolution nearly 40 years after the first? Michael Pluchak, I24 News.
And joining me here in the studio is Mary Javan Nafar, expert on Iran.